What up, guys? The NFL draft is officially 6 days away, so I need to get my NFL mock draft out right now. Because if you guys know what I do on Instagram, we do the $50 NFL mock draft challenge. We do that every single year. If you want to know how to enter, go to the 3Gen podcast on Instagram. Submit your NFL mock draft for a chance to win $50. All the rules are established there. Of course, let me get into my very own NFL mock draft and maybe help you guys and maybe try to persuade you guys and where teams might end up going in this draft. I can't believe we're only 6 days away, but enough yapping. Let's get straight into it. The Raiders on the board with number one. It's going to be a no-brainer. It's going to be Mendoza. Say what you want, system quarterback. Maybe Ty Simpson's a better quarterback. He's not, or Ty Simpson's going to be better fit for Clint Kobiak. It's not true. Mendoza's easily the best pick. If you saw what he did in the playoffs, the numbers he put up just shows he is the best quarterback, and the Raiders need a quarterback going forward. They cannot go into next season without one. They've already established and got many guys on defense for that Raiders. So now they need to get their quarterback of the future and say what you want, but system quarterbacks seem to be decent. Look at the 49ers, look at maybe Brock Purdy. You can argue he's a system quarterback. System quarterbacks aren't all that bad if you got the right coaching in place and they do that in Las Vegas. It's going to be Mendoza there at number one. On number two, the debate is it going to be David Bailey, edge out of Texas Tech? Is it going to be Arval Reese, edge out of Ohio State? Well, for me, don't have this debate with going back and forth between these two edges. Really, Arval Reese can kind of play linebacker and edge. He's kind of that do-it-all guy. And that's kind of what the Jets need going forward. They already canceled their meeting with David Bailey, so Arval Reese should be the pick there. I mean, look at Aaron Glenn and the defenses he's run before. Derek Barnes was kind of his do-it-all guy. Arval Reese brings that to a whole another level. He can get after the quarterback. He can play coverage. He can kind of do what you want. And the Jets, they lost out on Jermaine Johnson. They sent him away. They did get some guys in there, but no one to the level of Arval Reese. If you look at their depth chart and you look at that defense there, you got guys like Will McDonald. He's solid. But you have Joseph Osei on the opposite side, along with Kingsley. Those free agent signings there. But they're at the will linebacker position. They don't really have anyone strong. Or they do have Mikael Walker at the sub linebacker. But no one really a sure presence there to rush the quarterback and get after it. And Arval Reese is going to be that, but he's also going to be a great coverage guy. They did get a solid vet and solid leader in the middle of that defense for Demario Davis, but he honestly can't really do that for long. He's up there in age, and Arval Reese is going to be able to provide all types of chaos on all levels of that defense. He's that kind of presence there, and that's basically what the Jets need. So here's the pick. It's going to be Arval Reese. Cardinals. So from what I've heard, this draft is going to be very trade heavy, especially in the front half. You never know what's going to happen. And this is actually what I have going forward here for the Cardinals. I think they need to address that offensive line, especially the tackle position. If you look at what they've addressed in free agency, it's not a lot. Yes, they still need a quarterback. Maybe that gets addressed in the second round with a Ty Simpson. They did bring in Gardner Minshew, but I don't. Maybe they're trying to tank for a better quarterback. Maybe they're. But honestly, I think that's not what Mike LaFleur wants to do here with this team. And you definitely need to address the right tackle position to go across from Paris Johnson to honestly build a foundation for whoever quarterback you're going to have going forward. And the Cardinals, I think they're in a prime position to trade down with the Washington Commanders. The Commanders have one pressing need. They spent a whole bunch of money on Odafe Owe. They gave him $100 million. To me, that doesn't sound like you want to spend a high draft pick on an edge if you're going to give $100 million to an edge rusher. To me, that sounds like you need to address the offense, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do here. I think they're going to leapfrog the Titans, who have been rumored to take this player. I think the Commanders, this is risky because I'm kind of playing it risky here. I'm going for high stakes, high reward type move here, especially if this is going to be my entry here for the $50 NFL mock draft. I'm having the Commanders trade with the Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to propose this year just to make it a little bit easier on myself. They're going to do this with the Commanders. The Cardinals are going to send the number 3 pick. Commanders are going to send number 7. They're going to send a third for next year. And they are going to send pick 187. And the Cardinals are going to send back a 5th for next year. That's the trade. Minor details might get mixed up. It might be more, it might be less. But this seems like a fair trade. It's going 53% here, 46% here, so not completely even, but this is kind of what the trade would look like. Going to confirm that trade has been accepted. Commanders now move up to pick 3, and they are going to take Jeremiah Love. If you look at their running back room, it's not really special. They did bring in Rachaad White, but he's more of a 3-down back, more of a guy who can get catch the ball out of the backfield. Bill, I don't think the Commanders view him as that guy going forward. They have Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, of course, Bill. They did bring Jerome Ford. They do have Rachaad White, but I do think this team, this younger team led by Jaden Daniels, they need a premier running back in that backfield to boost what this offense is capable of. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. Trade up. It wouldn't take much. Cardinals just move 4 spots down, and the Commanders are going to take Jeremiah Love, leapfrog the Tennessee Titans in order to do it. Now, the Tennessee Titans are kind of put in a weird position. They miss out on Jeremiah Love. Arvell Reese is off the board. Now, will they go with Ruben Bain? I don't think so. He could reunite with Cam Ward. Don't think that's a possibility there because of Ruben Bain's actions. I think he's going to fall just a little bit, though, not completely. If you saw the news recently about his cited accident just a couple of years ago, I think Tennessee Titans are going to get a guy who is projected to go very early, and some people even have him around this. I think the Tennessee Titans are going to go after a sneaky pick here at 4. If you look at their depth chart, which I like to do, kind of just break down to you and kind of show a weakness on a team, so I can address that need, and kind of make it make sense to you. Safety's bad. Tony Adams at free safety, Amani Hooker at the strong safety position. Their backfield for the secondary is bad. And they desperately need an upgrade to go. They've already made a ton of upgrades in that forefront for this Tennessee Titans defensive line. They added Jermaine Johnson. They got John Franklin Myers. They added Jordan Elliott from the 49ers to come on over, along with Solomon Thomas. They added guys to that front so they wouldn't have to do that early in the draft. And I think they're going to take a guy that, which not a lot of people are projecting, but a guy who definitely could go this early, is a Caleb Downs safety out of Ohio State. And honestly, all these Ohio State guys realistically could go in the top 5. Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, Carnell Tate, Sonny Styles. All 4 of those guys could go in the top 5 realistically. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Ohio State players could realistically go in the top 5. It's possible. And the Giants, I honestly have them going with another Ohio State guy. And that is the linebacker Sonny Styles. His stock boosted dramatically after the combine, and kind of goes to show. It kind of even elevated his film and kind of showed like, wow, this guy can really do it all. That Ohio State defense was elite. They had 3 premier players on all 3 levels of the defense: defensive line, linebacking core, and safety. And the Giants, this is kind of the position they need here at number 5. A premier linebacker to add in the middle of that defense. Maybe they later in the second round they draft nose tackle, but here right now at 5, that's not the position you need to address because it does look like Dexter Lawrence is going to find a new home relatively soon. Maybe after the draft, maybe in the next few days we see a trade go forward here for Dexter Lawrence. But if you look at John Harbaugh in his past, every single season He's had a premier linebacker. You look at Patrick Queen. You look at just last year, Roquan Smith. He's had a guy in that middle of that defense, a leader, a guy who can make big plays. And right now on this Giants team, they do not have that. You have Tremaine Edmonds to the left, but next to him you have Micah McFadden. He's a solid guy, great depth guy, but that's not a leader you want in the middle of that defense. Sonny Styles is a huge upgrade, and Tremaine Edmonds, he's got injury issues. They gave him a decent sized contract, but he's also up there in age. You definitely need a guy to boost that middle of that defense and add some premier experience, like a Sonny Styles who led a loaded Ohio State defense over the past couple seasons. That's going to be a pick there for the New York Giants. And if you've heard draft rumors, or if you've, at least you listened to them, you would at least know that the Cowboys are looking to trade up, and the Browns are looking to trade down. And I think that's realistically could happen. Now I kind of have a crazy trade that kind of makes sense for both sides. The Cowboys want a trade up to get a premier edge rusher, and the Browns kind of want to trade down because they don't really like their position, and they can just move down and collect more capital. And I think that's exactly going to happen. I'm going to propose a trade here between the Browns and the Cowboys. If you couldn't already have guessed that. And they're actually going to kind of swap their picks here in the first round. The Browns are going to give pick 6 and pick 24. So they move down 6 spots, but they're also going to move up 4 from 24. The Cowboys are going to give 12, 20. They're also going to give 92 and pick 180. And the Browns are going to give back pick 206. So this is really going to be the trade here. Both sides move down a little bit. The Cowboys are going to move up. Here's the pros. Maybe the Browns give another pick here. Maybe they give since they have 3 picks here, maybe they give 146. That could be an option there. I'm going to propose this. It's 50-40. It's 50, I mean, not 50, it's 50-49. The value is very close. It realistically, this trade makes sense for both sides. Going to confirm this. Trade's been accepted. So 2 early trades here at the beginning of the round. It's risky, especially if you're partaking in my $50 NFL mock draft challenge. It's risky, not really playing it safe, but over the years I've kind of played it safe. So I kind of want to try something different this time around. And I think the Cowboys, I've seen them take Ruben Bain, but because of his behavior, I don't think they want a guy like that. So I think they're going to go with a David Bailey. I've seen the Cowboys trade up for him before in mock drafts. I think this would be the pick here. I've seen David Bailey go high as 2. So if he's here at 6, I definitely see the Cowboys making an aggressive move to move up to get him. So that's going to be the pick there. At 7, the Cardinals trade down, and they're going to get the exact guy they would have gotten before, and that's Francis Mayoga. He's going to play tackle, like I already explained. You need a guy to protect your quarterback, whoever that might be going forward, and they do that and add more capital by trading down with the Commanders. I think it makes perfect sense. Saints, they need another wide receiver across from Chris Olave. You need another premier pass maker. I could also see this being a Ruben Bain possibility here. They lost Cam Ward. They lost a lot of guys there. If you look at their defense, their edge presence, it's honestly a bigger, it's a more prestige position, pass rushing, edge rusher than a wide receiver would be. So I could definitely see the Saints targeting a Ruben Bain and playing anywhere on that front 4 for the Saints defense. Definitely could see that. But I do know Kellen Moore is an offensive guy. They address the offensive line in free agency. Offensive line looks great. They have Juwan Johnson at tight end, but you have Chris Olave, but you also don't really have another option other than Chris Olave. If you saw what they ran last year, Chris Olave was getting double teamed most of the times. He put up crazy numbers just because he was really their only option and he was finally healthy because he had a good quarterback. You need to bring another guy in for this Saints offense to really relieve Chris Olave of that pressure. You can't have him really be the only option. Sure, they could do that in the second round, get Ruben Bain here, and get maybe another guy in the second. I think they're going to be sprinting to the podium to get a guy like Carnell Tate, another Ohio State wide receiver, to go across from Chris Olave. And honestly, Tate could, like I said, go in this top four. He is that good of a prospect. Here are the Chiefs at number 9. They are projected right now to land Cam Jordan, edge rusher from the Saints. He'd be a big presence, but even so, I think you need a edge presence going forward over the past um, for the next upcoming season. People have this being a corner option, and yes, they did lose a lot of guys, but they did sign a guy like Kader Cahoe. They got Christian Fulton. They got guys who they think they can step up, like a Noel Williams, and they got Kyrie Liam for cheap. If you look at this edge presence, you got George Karlaftis, who's great, but you don't really have anyone across from him. You need a big guy presence there. And now that Ruben Bain's kind of fallen to them at 9, I think this would be an elite pick here from the Chiefs if they can manage to develop him and help him with his behavior. I think Andy Reid can unlock this guy, and he could be a monster on that Chiefs defense. That's going to be the pick there. The Cincinnati Bengals. They need a lot, especially on the defensive front. But they did get a huge free agency. If you look at what they did, they got guys like Boye Mafe. They addressed the secondary room and got a guy like Kobe Durant, if who's not showing who's not showing up at DJ Turner. Brian. Oh no, they got Brian Cook. Kobe Durant went to who signed Kobe Durant? We're gonna address this right now. It was the Cowboys. Maybe, huh? Anyway, let's get back to this. So they ended up getting Brian Cook from the Okay, my ball knowledge is who. Actually, I can just hit his profile real quick because I'm curious what team he played for. He played. You go to bio. He played for the Chiefs for the past 4 years, and now he's going to the Cincinnati Bengals. He adds a valid veteran presence to this team. He's got Super Bowl championships. And he is way better than a guy like Geno Stone, who was in that position before. Jordan Battle is young. But no, that secondary room is a lot better. But they definitely could use another corner. They address the front four. Offense, of course, is still really elite. And that's kind of where I have the Bengals leaning. They did lose some guys in the secondary, and they've been needing secondary for years. They drafted a guy like Daxton Hill just a few years ago, who's had his ups and downs, not really been showing too much promise. But that's kind of where I have the Bengals going here. They're going to take another LSU guy, and that's going to be a Mansoor Delane, who some people debate whether he or Jermon McCoy is the best corner in this class. In my opinion, it is Mansoor Delane, and according to Pro Football Sports, it is Mansoor Delane here as well. And that's kind of where I got them going as well. I have the Bengals taking a Mansoor Delane to boost that secondary room and to boost the defense as a whole. That's where the Bengals are going to go here. And the Miami Dolphins. They definitely need a wide receiver badly. I don't think they target it with their 11th pick here. I could definitely see this as a pick to boost that offensive line as they lost a guy like Larry Borom to free agency. They definitely need a guy to add across from Patrick Paul if you look at this Dolphins offensive line, and I've seen them projected to take a guy like Spencer Fano, an offensive tackle from Utah, who people kind of don't really know where he will end up going, whether it's early or late, that people kind of don't really know. And you got guys like Patrick Paul, Austin Jackson's kind of had his ups and downs. I think they need to give Malik Willis, give him a chance, get a prestige offensive tackle from Utah in Spencer Fano to boost the offensive line because you definitely lost guys from that offensive line in free agency. You draft a guy like Spencer Fano. It's going to be a huge boost to this team and honestly help Devon Achane in the run game. So that's where I have them going there with the 11th pick. And the Cleveland Browns, with their first pick going down, I think they are in a perfect position If you saw, they try to upgrade their offensive line a lot. They got basically a whole new unit, but there's still one weakness on that team, and that's tackle. You have Titus Howard and DeJuan Jones. DeJuan Jones can play left tackle. Titus Howard's not a great option at right tackle, but even DeJuan Jones he's iffy there at left tackle. You need a presence to address in the tackle room. Guards, they ended up signing Tevin Jenkins, Zion Johnson, and Elton Jenkins to play center. They definitely do need a wide receiver, but remember they do have pick 20 now from the Cowboys because they traded down. Defense could use a little bit of help. Not doesn't need crazy presence because that Cleveland Browns defense is still elite, but it's definitely the offense that needs help for whoever is going to be throwing the ball or running for them, and that's going to be that's why I have Monroe feeling being the pick here for the Browns. People think this guy can go top 5, top 10. And honestly, this guy kind of after the combine and after his pro day, his stock flew. He went from a early day 2 pick to a top 10 guy. To me, I didn't really understand that. I know he is a freak athlete. I just don't know if he has the size. If you look at his um profile, it's 6'7", 315. You look at his traits. Prospect grade is very high, but you look at the footwork, hand usage, size is okay. Size is a little bit better than I highly projected it to be, but he's still a raw talent. He's still a raw prospect that I feel like definitely needs a little bit more development. Of course, he did play in a loaded SEC with prestige guys rushing the quarterback, and he did perform well at Georgia for sure. He's just going to be a raw talent, but I think the Browns can develop that, and it should be there, should be fine for them at 12. 13, the Rams. They're going to address the one position they maybe need help at. Not really. This team is loaded. They addressed their biggest weakness in free agency and trade by taking care of the secondary. They they got a whole new unit. Trent McDuffie. They got Jalen Watson, and of course they got Emmanuel Forbes. They could get another guy to play noseback behind Quentin Lake, but I don't think you do that. Maybe this is a Jermon McCoy to kind of boost the depth in the secondary room. Maybe they go after an edge rusher, maybe a D tackle, maybe even an offensive lineman. But I think with Mekhi Lemon still on the board here, he's going to play that third wide receiver. Across from Puka and Devontae Adams, Mekhi Lemon is going to be the pick. And Devontae Adams, he can't play forever. He's got maybe 1 or 2 more seasons. Mekhi Lemon would be the future there at that position. Some people have this pick as Ty Simpson. I don't think the Rams are going to take a quarterback this early, especially at 13. So I have Mekhi Lemon being the pick here for the Rams at 13. You look at the Ravens at 14. They could go a lot of different directions here. But I actually have them going. If you look at what their depth chart and what they lost guys like Isaiah Likely. They lost guys like Charlie Kolar. That tight end room has been depleted by a lot. Where Here we go, Baltimore Ravens. If you look at their depth chart, they could definitely use a guard. They did sign a guy like John Simpson. They could definitely use. I've seen this being Ola Ione from Penn State. I've seen him be the pick there, but I honestly think that they would need a tight end to kind of boost that firepower for Lamar Jackson. You got Mark Andrews, who had a better season last year, but he can't go forever. You don't really have a solid option behind him. You need a athlete there at tight end behind Mark Andrews. You had Isaiah Likely for years, and you kind of get his replacement, and honestly, a guy who could possibly be better there than Isaiah Likely, and that is Kenyon Sadiq, freak athlete from Oregon. Some people have him going at 19 to the Panthers, and he definitely could. He could fall there, but I think Sadiq is way too good of a talent. He could go 14 or 15 to the Bucks or the Ravens there, either one, and I think he's going to fall, not fall, but he's going to go up to the Ravens. 15, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They need a lot of help, but they also lost Jamal Dean in the secondary. To me, this is an immediate plug and fix type option there for the Buccaneers. If you go to their depth chart, you look at their biggest needs, and that's the secondary room. You got Zion McCollum, who's okay there at left corner. At right corner is Benjamin Morrison, still very young. Jacob Parrish at nose back. You've got some very young options there in the secondary room, and I think you need to add a high value guy. Jermon McCoy, he didn't play all of last season, and you can kind of take his time with him because you got younger guys in this room. He can kind of fill in there. You maybe take his time, but I think he's going to be an elite corner for them going forward. They got Alex Anzalone in free agency. Offense still, they did lose out on Mike Evans. They could go with the Jordan Tyson here to replace him, but I think their wide receiver room is fine. They got guys like Tez Johnson, Jalen McMillan, Igbuka, Chris Godwin. They kind of knew Mike Evans was kind of on his way out, per se, and they didn't really want to give him the type of money the 49ers gave him, which was insane, especially for a guy of that age coming off a pretty bad injury. But that's what the 49ers did. We're not here to talk about them right now because it's time for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to take Jermon McCoy with their 15th pick. And now the Jets at 16. It's their second pick. In previous mock drafts, I've had them go with a Ty Simpson here at 16. You don't really want Geno Smith as that quarterback. But unfortunately, I think Aaron Glenn thinks Geno Smith can be that guy to lead that offense going forward. So I have them going with a different option at 16, and it's not a Ty Simpson. It's actually an Omar Cooper Jr. They definitely need another wide receiver across from Garrett Wilson, and I've actually seen rumors that the Jets kind of like an Omar Cooper Jr. here at 16. It does seem a little bit high, but I'm here to project. I'm not here to give my options. I'm not a GM. I'm not saying the Jets should pick Omar Cooper Jr. I'm predicting. That's what I'm doing here, and I think they'll go after an Omar Cooper Jr. If you look at their depth chart, we did just get them a Arvell Reese, but now their offense, it needs to get addressed. Sure, they could go Ty Simpson. I honestly, it could be their second option here. It could be a guard like Ole Minau from Penn State, who honestly is falling right now in this mock draft, but he could go a lot higher. But I definitely think you need a guy um to play across from Garrett Wilson and even a Dye Mitchell who's got potential. But you still don't really have a lot of guys in that room. And Omar Cooper Jr. will provide an immediate help in that room for whoever's throwing him the ball. Lions at 17. To me, I think this pick is obvious. They need an offensive tackle. They did sign Larry Borom from the Dolphins, who they say they view as a starter. I think he's just a swing tackle. He's only going to start for a few games before maybe this guy takes over. And as soon as I saw this guy make a crazy play in college, I knew the Lions were going to draft him. People were laughing about it, and I think it's honestly going to happen. Caden Proctor should be the pick. Apparently, the Lions love him. Maybe it's a Keldrick Falk. They interviewed him as well. They definitely need an edge rusher. It should be between those two guys here at 17. Some people have Ione being the pick to the Lions. They don't really need a guard with Tate Ratledge, Christian Mahogany, and they did add a lot of depth in that offensive line room. If you look at the depth chart, you have Christian Mahogany at left guard, Ben Barch behind him. You got Juice Shrugs, who's going to probably play backup center. Tate Ratledge at right guard. They added a lot of depth into that room. Um, and so I think the Lions would take a Caden Proctor to play tackle. You kind of have Larry Borom at left. I think Penei Sewell is going to switch to left tackle. And I think Penei is going to switch to left tackle and make room for Caden Proctor to play that right tackle position. I think that's what the Lions are getting ready for. So that's the pick going to be there at pick 17 to the Detroit Lions. It's going to be Caden Proctor. Next, we have the Vikings. Give me just a second. Next, we got the Minnesota Vikings, and to me, from what I've heard, the pick is obvious. And it's the Minnesota Vikings here at 18. And the pick is obvious. I've heard rumors of that the Vikings love this guy, and it should be Dylan Thireman, safety out of Oregon here. I mean, they lost out on Harrison Smith. They have a need there at safety. If you look at that room, they got Theo Jackson and Joshua McMellis, and it's not a great room. The rest of that defense is elite. They have a lot of great guys there. At defense, Brian Flores always has a great defense in place in Minnesota. Just the safety room is a little bit weak now. Now that they lost Harrison Smith, and I think that the pick could 100% be Dylan Thireman, who I hear the Vikings love, and he could honestly go higher. Great athlete. 8 interceptions over the past few years there at Oregon, and he fills an immediate need here for the Minnesota Vikings. Next, we got the Carolina Panthers at 19. Um, they could go a whole different couple directions. I did have Kenyon Sadiq go a little bit earlier. Now I think they'd go on the other side of the ball though. That was the reason why they kind of lost there. In the playoffs, I think their offense is in a good young position. I think they definitely need to add more stars to the defensive side of the ball, which is what they did in free agency. They got guys like Devin Lloyd to play in the middle. They got Jalen Phillips to rush the quarterback. But I definitely think you need a guy to play, a bigger guy to play on that lower end of the defensive line, across from Derek Brown and Bobby Brown. They do got Nick Scorin, who's young, who's got potential, but I definitely think they need to add another young guy who can not only um attack the quarterback and rush him, but also help in the run game. And I think Keldrick Folk can do that. Edge out of Auburn. He might go a little bit later, but I think this would be a great pick for the Panthers. They could go Akeem Mesidor, but I think they would go for a younger option, like a Keldrick Folk, to immediately come in and play that role. Cleveland Browns here at 20. They moved up 4 spots because the Cowboys trade I have them projected to do. The Cleveland Browns, they did already take Monroe Feeling, so now I feel like this is a perfect time to address their biggest need. If Jordan Tyson's still on the board, which I think he will fall, some people have him going earlier. I think he will fall because of injury concerns and his character. I think the Browns can get that managed. They don't have a lot of great characters with Shedeur and other players, but I think they can get Tyson. I think him and Shedeur could have a good connection. Even Deshaun Watson, whoever that quarterback might be going forward for the Browns, they need another star wide receiver to throw the ball to, and they don't currently have that right now. Jerry Jeudy is not that. Harold Fanning is a good tight end going forward for them, but they don't really have any other premier pass catchers. Jordan Tyson provides that immediately for the Cleveland Browns. Here at 21, if this guy's still on the board, expect the Steelers to get this guy. This guy screams Pittsburgh Steelers. It's not Ty Simpson. Could address quarterback. Aaron Rodgers hasn't announced he's coming back. But I don't expect them to take quarterback, especially this high. I do expect them to take Aloa Vega Ione, offensive guard from Penn State. He is an immediate playing guy. He is a freak, and it gives this new run game that the Steelers are developing a whole nother level, as he's a beast in the run game, but he also has a solid pass game to him. You got now Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle. They're going to be a great 1-2 punch there for the Steelers. And you bring in a guy to maybe play left guard instead of Spencer Anderson. He's going to be an immediate fix there for the Steelers, and he's going to be a great piece going forward. Chargers at 22. I have them going with a guy who can immediately play, who's honestly a veteran in himself already. He's gonna be a plug and play guy. That's kind of what they need. They lost out on Odafe Owe to the Commanders. If you go to their depth chart to see what they're kind of lacking, it is an edge presence across from to Pelotu to play lefty end. They kind of need a little bit of help all over the defensive side of the ball. They got great players, could use some more, and I think this draft is a perfect way to fill in those positions. They could go guard here. Um, I have seen a lot of tackles projected here, but their tackles are kind of solid. They could make Blake Miller into a guard. I don't see that happening. I think they address the defensive side of the ball, and that's Akeem Mesidor, edge out of Miami. Next, we got the Philadelphia Eagles here at 23. I have them going with a guy. They lost out on Reed Blankenship. They did bring in a Rico Woolen to boost the secondary. They got three great corners now for the Eagles, but your safety room is still lacking. If you look at who you got Marcus Epps, who's okay, and Andrew Makuba at free safety, who could still play that. He's a nice young guy. He could be their free safety of the future. But at safety, I wouldn't count on Marcus Epps. And instead, I will go a guy who I've seen around this range. I've even seen higher for a guy like safety Emmanuel McNeil Warren from Toledo. And the Eagles are known to do this. They get kind of um, raw talents from smaller schools and kind of develop them, and they provide great talents. If you look, Quinion Mitchell, cornerback for them, and you see he got drafted out of Toledo just 2 years ago. I think they're going to follow that same method and draft a guy like Emmanuel McNeil Warren, safety out of Toledo, to boost that secondary room. Cowboys at 24. This is now their second first round pick because they traded up to get an elite guy in David Bailey. So their pick falls from 20 to 24. Not a drastic move at all. For them, they did have to give up a little bit of capital to do so, but I think this would be a premier position here to take. They did trade away Osa to the 49ers. If you look at really what they're needing on this Cowboys team, they definitely need playmakers on the defensive line. They've been trying to address it for a whole year now. They tried a Max Crosby trade, didn't work. They ended up going for a Rashawn Gary. They got Quinnen Williams to play that lefty end position. But they got Demarion Overshawn, who could definitely be good for them going forward. And Donovan Izuaku. They got guys in position to rush the quarterback, especially now that I've given them a David Bailey and they got Rashawn Gary. But you kind of need someone to be in the middle of that defensive line next to Williams and Kenny Clark and to play that nose tackle position. And I think Peter Woods is capable of that, especially if he falls at 24. In the past years, Peter Woods was projected to go top 5. Now he's fallen to 24 just because of his play at Clemson. I think part of that has to do with coaching, and just the defense as a whole was bad. I think this would be a great pick here for the Cowboys to address nose tackle and take Peter Woods. Bears at 25. They could go a whole lot of different directions. But if you look at their team needs, like I do for every single team, if you look at what they need and what they've lost, I'm gonna try to speed this up here. Um, they need a premier guy in the middle of that defense. They did lose a lot, but they did replace a good amount of guys. It was Kobe Bryant. That's who I thought of before. He went to the Bears to play free safety. They did lose out on a lot of safeties, like C.J. Gardner Johnson. They lost out on another guy as well. But they definitely need someone to play next to Grady Jarrett to play right D tackle. They got some good D ends. I like this young team. I really like it a lot. They signed Devin Bush to a small contract to play linebacker to replace Tremaine Edmonds to play next to T.J. Edwards. But I do think you need a star guy next to Grady Jarrett. Going forward, they could address offensive line to maybe replace a Braxton Jones. I know they got Jedrick Wills and Ozzy Chiaropoulos, so I think they're going to take offensive line a little bit later. They could take a wide receiver here, like a Denzel Boston, to replace DJ Moore. I think they go in a different direction and address the middle of the defensive line with a Caden McDonald defensive tackle from Ohio State. Just I mean, this Ohio State defense had playmakers all over the field, and Caden McDonald's. You could argue he had a lot of help with Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. McDonald, he's no joke either. In the middle of that defensive line, provided a great system to help that run defense, which the Bears desperately needed help with. Their pass rushing ability was great, but they were not great in stopping the run. And I think Caden McDonald is going to help that a lot, especially when you have guys in the NFC North like Jahmyr Gibbs and Josh Jacobs who can run all over you. All right, now you got the Bills at 26. And they lost David Edwards. They lost him to the Saints. They definitely need a guy to fill in that position to help Josh Allen. They did trade for DJ Moore. This wide receiver room is a little bit more experienced, a lot better for Josh Allen. But you can't have a guy like Osiris Torrance or Alec Anderson being there at guard. You definitely need another guy going forward. The defensive line, the defensive side of the ball is in an okay spot. Secondary is still young. They got Maxwell Harrison, their first round pick from last year. They signed Geno Stone and C.J. Gardner Johnson to address the secondary room. They got a guy like Bradley Chubb to replace Joey Bosa. The defensive side of the ball, it's got its highlights. I think it's the offense side of the ball that needs to be addressed here in the first round for them, and that's why I have them going with Emmanuel Pregnon. Could be a little bit of a reach, but I've seen him go in this range before. Um, Pro Football Sports Network does have him a little bit low, but I wouldn't take that serious. This also could be a chase. Basantis from Texas A&M. I think Pregnon would is a better option. He's been kind of in the media a little bit more than a Basantis. Basantis kind of got a late start, a late hype to him, and now he's kind of getting late first round hype. I still think Pregnon, he's got that ability. His hype kind of died down, but I still think he has that chance to go in this late first round, and I think he can go to the Bills here at 26. They might even be a trade down option here to get more capital. Maybe the Cardinals trade up. They just trade down. They add in more capital. They might trade up for a Ty Simpson possibly. You might need to look out for that going forward. Who might want to trade up for Ty Simpson? Will anyone want to trade up for Ty Simpson? We'll have to see that in the next 6 days at the NFL draft. Next we got the 49ers, and they were serious about fixing this offense, which I don't know if the offense needed all that much, but they definitely got a premier pass catching option for Brock Purdy and Mike Evans, elite guy who they did pay a whole bunch of money to a guy just coming off an injury, but he definitely will help this 49ers offense going forward. Um, but a need for them going forward has to be tackle. Trent Williams has been in trade rumors. Will he be the left tackle going forward for the 49ers team? I don't know. Or even at right tackle. Colin McKivitz, he's a good option. Could add a guy behind him. Um, but I think tackle's got to be their number one. They did just get Robert Jones, signed him to play left guard. Defense, they did lose some solid depth at D line. Lost guys like Solomon Thomas, lost guys like Jordan Elliott to the Titans, but they got guys in place to replace them. Michael Williams is still young. Nick Bosa is back. They got Dre Greenlaw back at linebacker. D. Winters is still behind him, and Bethune linebacking course great. They signed Jack Jones to the secondary. Defense has kind of got its guys in place. Offensive line I feel like is their number one issue here going forward, and I think the pick here for the 49ers would be a guy who some might be surprised is still on the board, and that's the other guy from across from Spencer Funnell, and that's Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle from Utah. He can be the tackle of the future there to replace Trick Williams, and that's kind of their biggest worry going forward. Titans, their biggest worry is also the offensive line. If you look at what their biggest issue going forward all of last year, people were laughing at this offensive line. They definitely tried to change it this offseason and add some makeup to it. They did a whole makeover to this offensive line by adding a whole bunch of options. If you look at who they added guys like Braden Smith. They added guys like Wyatt Teller to play right guard. They added guys like Evan Brown. They added guys all across this offensive line, and I think they'd still take a tackle who maybe has that potential to play a guard. That versatility in the NFL is elite. You want a guy who can play tackle, but who can also move to guard. The protector of the year went to a guy like Joe Thuney, who played guard but moved out to left tackle when the Bears' left tackle went down. That is highly valuable in the NFL. And Irte Ursay from Minnesota. He was drafted last year. He had his ups and downs. He can maybe be a left tackle in the future. I wouldn't count on it. I would like to add. They should add another guy to that room to provide competition at least, who can also probably move to guard and play left guard. And that guy is a guy like Blake Miller from Clemson. He is versatile. He's 6'6", 317. He can move down to guard if he wants to. He's a natural mover, which is kind of what you want to see from his stuff. Draft projection, he's projected rounds, pick 17 to 132. So this is definitely in his range. I've seen him all over the board. I think this would be a great pick for the Texans here at 28, taking a guy like Blake Miller. Chiefs at 29. This is their second first round pick. They got a Ruben Bain at 9. Here at 29, they might trade down and add more capital because they did lose a lot of guys in that secondary room. Might trade down with the Cardinals and get a guy like Ty Simpson. I'm tempted to do that right here, but I'm going to play it safe in this later rounds. I think the Chiefs are going to take a guy who maybe in the second round, if they trade down, maybe now, they definitely need a guy to add to the corner room. I don't think the Chiefs do that at 9, especially with Ruben Bain on the board, but now here at 29, they're going to do that with Colton Hood, who actually played last season for Tennessee, stepped up for Jamon McCoy, and actually played at a pretty elite level. And that's kind of what the Chiefs need. They're at corner. They need a guy who can come in and immediately play, who come in, provide good depth at least to a very young cornerback room, which is what the Chiefs have going forward, and they add more depth to it, and maybe a starter in Colton Hood. Dolphins at 30. Their first pick, we had them take Spencer Fano with their 30th pick. This could also be an Amari Cooper Jr. if he had not gone at 16. This would probably be his other destination here at 30. And I definitely think this is going to be a wide receiver option. It could be a Denzel Boston, or it could be a guy like Casey Concepcion. Either one of those are great options. I think the Miami Dolphins end out with a Denzel Boston. They definitely Concepcion is kind of a speed guy. Boston's a go up and grab it guy. They have speed guys in place for the Miami Dolphins. They have Taj Watson, not Watson. They have Taj Washington and Malik Washington. They have the Washington brothers there, in Miami. Speedsters. If you look at who else they got Tutu Atwell, speedster. They need a guy who can go up and get it. Jalen Tolbert right now is that guy, and you don't want him to be that guy. I think Denzel Boston is going to come in and immediately provide that for the Miami Dolphins. Patriots at 31. 2 more picks. Christian Miller is going to be the pick here. They lost Tonga to free agency. They need another guy to play next to Christian Barmore. Or not Christian Barmore, but they need another guy to add to that defensive line. They need a guy to play next to Milton Williams. That's the guy I was thinking of. And Christian Barmore's there too. So they need a guy to play nose tackle in the middle of these guys. And I think that's where I'm going to have Christian Miller, elite player from Georgia. Georgia usually has an elite defensive player every single year. This year, they don't really have that. Christian Miller is kind of really their only guy. And he's a player from Georgia. Every single year, we see elite guys go from Georgia in the NFL draft. If Christian Miller is the number one guy, I feel like the Patriots are going to take a chance on him and add him to that interior of their defensive line. They address free agency well. They address their biggest needs. They got guys like Elijah Vera Tucker to play left guard. Immediate fix in the offensive line. They removed Jared Wilson to center. In the wide receiver room, I think Sean Booty, he had a great season last year, and he's going to even continue to get better. Efton Chisholm is getting hype. Kyle Williams was their second round pick just a year ago. And Romeo Doubs, what they gave a huge contract to. Their wide receiver room should be good. This could be a tight end, but I feel like they address that in the later rounds. For me, the pick here could be another safety, but I think they address the middle and that tier of the defensive line, and that's a Christian Miller. Last pick, Seattle Seahawks. This could be a guy like Jadarian Price, running back out of Notre Dame. I think he goes a little bit later. Running backs usually don't go in the first round. I think they're going to hold off on that. They're going to address another side or another position that they lost out in free agency, and that is the corner position. They lost a lot of depth. Rick Woolen, among a bunch of other guys. That's and if you look at who they got Imani Owerwe from South Carolina just a year ago, and he was elite. I think they're going to run that back again to replace Rick Woolen there at corner and get a guy like Brandon Sissy to play in the cornerback room. And that is my full NFL mock draft. This is what I will be submitting here for the $50 NFL mock draft. Let me know what you guys think of this. Did I get anything wrong? You guys think otherwise? How do you feel about the trades? And let me know how excited you guys are for this 2026 NFL mock draft in just 6 days.